September 8th, 2020, Katuitt Fire District Prudential Committee meeting. I'll do the roll call. Ray Pisano? Ray?
Oh,
Roll
I'm
call.
sorry. Ray Perone, treasurer.
Seth?
Seth Burdick, Prudential.
Charlie?
Here.
Silvio?
Silvio Janal, Prudential.
Fran Parks Prudential. Okay. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks. Okay. So we're just going to be discussing the preliminary auditor's report and the management response. It's yours, Ray.
Thank you. What I think I'll do is I'll go through the management responses, and if there's any question, please let me know, or we'll, I think it might be a little bit difficult to hold them until the end. If any of the Prudential Committee members have a question as we go along. First of all, the overview is, I think the report clearly indicates that we have to tighten up our procedures. While all of the revenue, cash receipts, and expenditure transactions did not have any exceptions, there were adjustments that were missed in the closing, either on the month, quarter, or year end. Most of these adjustments were between funds or within accounts within a fund. But what I found troubling were the mistakes and errors in the tax recap. And in fact, what I've done in that regard is I've spoken with our new auditors and told them I want to have them carve out sometime in November. They probably won't start the audit until January, but I want them to carve out time in January to review my tax recap submission, so we guard against any repeat of those errors. Overall, I think when we face the limitations of staff and part-time working, the best solution that I came up with to mediate, guard against errors like this and others in the future was to develop checklists that we would follow for each event, such as a district meeting or a special district meeting, or at the end of a period, monthly, quarterly, and annually. And I've included those checklists for you to take a look at. They're fairly detailed, but I think what they will do is focus myself primarily on the tasks that have to be accomplished, whether by the assistant treasurer or by myself, and physically sign off to say that that step was done or that reconciliation was done. I think manuals tend to be written and put on a shelf. The thing I like about checklists is they're action oriented. You have to do the step, sign for the step, and it becomes self-correcting. Looking at the specific comments that the auditors make, the ban entry, the $180,000 entry, as I pointed out to them, and I think they'll change the wording, it's not that I didn't make the entry, it's that I didn't make the entry as completely as it was required. One of the problems that arose as I've thought about it is the capital fund and the general fund share bank accounts. It makes it easy for reconciliations and several other things. But what it doesn't do is make that clear delineation when, for example, the general fund paid for something that was in the capital fund. I made the entries that made the payment. I made the entries in the capital fund that retired the bond. But there has to be that connection of fund balances, and that's what didn't get done. So I think that that'll serve as a template when we do these transactions each year, and well, not next year and this year, and then hopefully not for quite a while with the refinancing. The Oprah transfer, again, was missed. The primary reason for this was the fact that the revenue sheet did not reflect all the transfers that were required based on the annual district meeting. I speak in my response about a budget reconciliation document, and I put in an example in the email I sent you today. And what this does is it moves from the minutes of the district meeting to the ledgers so that we make sure that we're capturing all parts of the transactions authorized in the annual district meeting. It sounds simple, but oftentimes some of these transfers get buried within appropriations or within articles, and they have to be teased out. The document that we're using now will do that, and then we'll ensure that we have everything on the ledgers to control our actions during the year. That document is also something that we'll use for the tax recap and we'll use for the closing each year. So it's a document that begins with the annual district meeting and is carried forward through the year with the various transactions that occur or impact the budget during the year. The special district meeting charges that were missed in the tax recap, again, that control document is something that I feel confident will avoid that. As you recall, in 2019, the annual district meeting and that special district meeting, excuse me, the special district meeting and the TRR were very close. And again, a checklist makes you stop and work through the procedures to accomplish what has to be done. I think what happened was that we rushed through, when I say we, I'm talking about me. I rushed through the transactions to get to that special district meeting and didn't get everything reflected in the tax recap that needed to be done. In terms of the abatement, again, that entry is basically, we recorded it in the tax recap. We took effect of that, but what I didn't do was move it from the abatement reserve to the deferred revenue reserve. Really no impact on the balance sheet at all, but it's something that needs to be done accounting-wise to move it from one reserve to another within the general fund. The classification of bond premiums. I went to great effort to get guidance on this and got it from the DOR and a long presentation on bond premiums. But what I missed was the use of the term reserve. When the DOR uses the term reserve, they're talking about a reserve within the fund balance. In my terminology, if you create a liability account to reserve that money, you've achieved the objective. As the auditors point out, no, it's not a liability account. You close it into the fund balance as a designated amount within fund balance. The duplicate, so I misread the DOR guidance on that. And we'll now use the DOR designated reserve for bond premiums until they are used on a project or to pay down debt. The next item was a mistake in the encumbrance account. And that was caused by a duplicate journal entry by the assistant treasurer and myself. And since last December, when we found that we had a similar problem, we have limited all journal entries to be signed by myself. If I prepare a journal entry, I submit it to the assistant treasurer, she prepares it, and I finally sign off on it. So we've established one point of entry and control on journal entries, which should guard against any more duplication of entries. The next comment was directed to the water department. The water department again declined to have the water commissioners approve the commitments. Candidly, I don't know what value that would be. They, in their original response, indicated that the burden for control should fall in the treasurer's office. I pointed out that control is a joint effort, and so it's their responsibility as well as mine. It is not something that I've done in the past, and that is to draw a correlation or a mathematical correlation between the gallons pumped and revenue. We'll try to do that. I think that the water department is actually better suited to make that calculation than the treasurer's office, but we will attempt to be an overlay on their control.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Or make a comment? Can we ask when the new auditors come on board, can we have them look at the problem, you know, with the water department? I seem to recall that what our auditors suggested in the past was that at the time that the bills were sent out, just for the water commissioners just to have, you know, briefly have a meeting and approve the total, I assume the total amount of the bills, and just sending the bills out. He seemed to think that that would be sufficient as a control measure. But I think maybe the new auditor might have a different suggestion.
I'll definitely do that. I mean, this is a repeat of what they said before about having the commissioners approve the commitments, the billings as they go out.
Yeah.
And let's find out what the new auditors have to say. The next comment was that we should do reconciliations. We have been doing reconciliations. We've been doing tax reconciliations for as often as we get material from the town. I think that these auditors have repeatedly struggled under the misconception that we get monthly or reports from the town, which we don't. The town is committed to do it quarterly, and when they start doing that, we will certainly reconcile on a quarterly basis with them. But I think it's something that we have been doing as often as we get the reports, and will continue to do so.
For Seth's benefit, just there were some problems with the tax collector's office in the past at the town level, and there's been a change in management and a reshuffling and a reorganization. So I think that's going to make a huge, and it has already made a huge difference in our dealings with the tax, you know, the tax people over there. And
they collect the tax and then they disperse it to the fire district at a certain point. Is that how it works? I mean, I don't really understand that whole thing per se.
The money is, I'm sorry.
So as the bills are paid, they pay the fire district, meaning that they are the collector. And then,
yeah, the problem was the rate at which we were getting paid.
right,
You know,
they weren't.
when the office was taken over by the treasurer of the town, that they were 2 and 3 years behind in various
Really?
various stuffs. So
All right,
they've
so now
done
I-
a a huge cleanup over there. So, any problems with getting the information that Ray needs should now be hopefully settled.
Yeah,
All right.
it's been a huge improvement, as you said, Fran, already. Again, the recap errors, there are 2 offsetting errors. Again, it's something that I think I want the auditor to go through. There are a number of work papers that you normally prepare. I'm going to try to formalize those, put together a package so that the auditor in a rather short time can basically look over my shoulder to make sure that they are properly classified and there are no errors. I think that is the best guard against these kind of things in the future. The next point was to create an anti-fraud policy. I put one in. I frankly lifted it off of a town and said that we would do something similar to that. I think it's worthwhile to communicate to all people that we will pursue fraud when it's found, and we will encourage people to report it if they suspect it so that it can be investigated. And I think that's the value of a policy statement like that. The wording we can work with, but I think that's the main value of a policy like that. And it's a pretty standard recommendation of auditors. I have the same one at West Barnstable as here. Our next recommendation was a centralized purchasing facility or person. I don't think that's practical in the size of our district and the divergent purchasing that we do in the water department and fire department. I think those 2 departments are fully capable of making their own purchase arrangements. I think that in terms of control, Paul has created a very good system that controls the purchasing so that he knows at any time what purchases are out, what have been received, and is able to communicate that to us. And I believe that the water department has looked at either adopting that or doing something similar. So I think the controls can be created. I don't think you need to add a person to do that. And that's the way I responded. Obviously, if the Prudential Committee thinks otherwise, we can address that. Finally, or not finally, the second last point was a bond. I have a bond established about a week and a half ago with Mycock Insurance Agency, and that is in place as we speak. Their final point was having the Prudential Committee review journal entries, and I'm really not sure that that's going to be productive or informative. I think that we'll have to find some way, and I think some of the additions to the monthly reporting that I'm suggesting will probably take care of that. I don't think that submitting the journal entries to the Prudential Committee will enhance the understanding of what is going on financially.
Yeah. I don't think that's something that I'm qualified to remotely qualified to look at and understand and make comments about.
Yeah, I mean, they're usually fairly technical things that we're either correcting balances or moving funds or doing some of those entries that we just spoke about. I think that if there is a significant transaction that will result in a journal entry, that transaction can be reported to the Prudential Committee by other means. That's kind of the summary of my responses. I don't think I'm going to go through the checklist. They're pretty detailed. In fact, the more I've thought about it, I don't think I'm going to recommend that we include the checklist in the formal response. We refer to it. They do exist. I am using them. I am convinced that they will be helpful, but I don't think that including them will be really informative. And I think the other thing is that they're going to be revised and changed as we use them. We'll find that some of the steps are kind of redundant and can be eliminated. We'll find others that we've skipped over things and need to add some more steps to be checked off in the process. Another benefit of the checklist is it's a great way to allocate duties and responsibilities between myself and the assistant treasurer. And that's a good way to communicate that between us. Any questions, comments?
Silvio, Silvio's muted.
No, no questions at all. I just, like I said, I think at the district meeting, I think Ray's doing a hell of a job. I think we're glad to have, somebody with his knowledge and expertise on board and with our team. It's just, if in the future anything comes out of this that are going to be district-wide policies, obviously, they should be reviewed by us and the policy advisory committee. But when it comes to operational stuff, just like you said, Fran, none of us are experts. That's what we have Ray for. And I have full faith and trust in Ray and the job he's doing. So whatever he needs from us in order to make things better across the board, that's what we're here for.
Well, thank you.
And I think you didn't mention that Juvalis, your department is also now has a policy book of procedures.
Yes, largely through the efforts of Lisa, we have a good head start on a policy and procedure manual. It's been focused on HR issues, but we're going to be supplementing that with some of the financial policies, which things that have never been documented before. Lisa's done a great job doing that, and we find things still that haven't been documented and should be documented. So it's kind of an ongoing process to do that. But we do have a document standing, and that's probably worth mentioning in our response.
So, and I just have one other comment. This is for Charlie and the chief. All municipal employees are required every 2 years to do the state ethics test. So do all the firefighters do that? Chief? Paul? You,
Sorry, hold on, just I'll mute myself. Yes, they do.
they do.
The firefighters and the fire commissioners all do it every 2 years.
Every 2 years, okay, all right. And do you send those, where do you keep the results?
We've got them on a cloud file. We keep them there.
Okay. Charlie, do you need those results? Should you be keeping track of that stuff or?
I think Lisa.
I think Lisa would be the one.
Okay, all right. So that was my only question. I need to check and make sure the water department is also doing that.
I believe they are, and I believe Lisa has those signed statements in her files.
Okay, great.
I'll confirm that, but I'm quite sure that's true because I know she was chasing me to get it and told me that she had all the water department people.
Okay. So our next meeting, the fourth Monday is the 21st. So I don't know if you want to give the auditors the option of the 21st or the 28th.
I will do that.
So is that all right with you, Seth and Silvio?
Yeah, it should be fine with me.
What's
Nothing
the
on my
date again?
calendar.
Silvio, is that okay? I know sometimes you have
Yeah, so what was the date again? The 21st?
The 21st or the 28th?
Let me see. I have something that week. I have town meeting that week, but I think it's on a Saturday, so I should be fine.
Okay, all right. Well,
One
if you have a problem, let me know and I'll pass it along to Ray.
Yep.
Okay, so we don't have any other questions or concern. I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all very much. Thank you, Ray.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ray.
Have a good
Bye-bye.
evening.
See you guys.